Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit more. We're going to pick up on that idea of the improvising over that first section of chords in summertime. And we're going to try this approach just for starters because you kind of need the technique in the bank, so to speak, before you can actually start looking at it creatively. So I'm going to give you some ideas to use, and then you can practice them, and we'll try playing. You'll see what I'm going to do a little bit later in the video. So let's look at this. So once again, to review, we have these notes, which I hope you have tabbed or memorized by now. We have the G, the E, the D, the B, the B flat, A, G, E, open D, back to E. Okay? Let's just take one note. We spoke earlier how we have the B note here, the open B, which can also be played here on the 4th fret of the G string. It's the exact same note. So I'm going to play that two ways. I'm going to count off. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to play essentially the same thing, but I'm going to slide into each of those B notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's the same number of picking motions. We're just adding that little grace note each time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, or 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's probably the way most guitar players would play it. It adds a little bit more color, but there's nothing wrong with just playing the B note by itself. Same here, we have the open E string, which is part of the exercise we're using, that open E. But that open E also is here on the 5th fret of the B string. So, once again, if I want to use that E note instead of the open E, I can play it like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, or I can do a similar idea. I can slide up, say, from this D note, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Or I could just slide into it from the E flat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So there's essentially 3 different ways that you could play that E note if you wanted to use it as an idea. You could play it straight, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, slide it from the D, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, slide it from the E flat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So what we're doing is we're looking at not only ideas for improvisation, but we're also looking at the kind of tricks and techniques that guitar players will often use to make a solo a little bit more interesting. Okay? And we can do that kind of almost with any note. We have that B flat note, which we spoke about in the earlier video, which is kind of a note that creates a lot of tension. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. We could slide into that. Okay, so when you're sliding into that, it's super quick. It's what they would call a grace note. It just happens really fast, but it's yet enough to add some color. So go ahead and practice those ideas, sliding into the B, and kind of use that rhythm, that 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, sliding into the E, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, sliding into the B flat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay? Now, the B note is a note that we said exists in all three of those chords that we're using. So the B note wouldn't need a lot of resolution. Neither would the E note, because the E note represents the kind of the tonality of that series of chords. We said earlier that the tonality there is basically the E with that B in between, but that B always takes us back to that E minor. Okay? So that E wouldn't need a lot of resolution either. The B flat, on the other hand, is going to create a lot of tension. So that would maybe want to resolve up to that B, like that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, like that. Or it could resolve down. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, that one again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. So again, you can see I'm resolving to that E, which is the tonality of that section of chords. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play the background that I recorded earlier on the video prior to this one, where I just laid down those three chords, and I'm going to use some of those ideas. They're simple, but the thing about improvisation is it's not about learning a lot of notes. It's more about developing a feel and an imagination for doing it. And hopefully by me giving you some ideas that are really simple, simple is actually good, because you don't want a lot, technically speaking, to wrap your head around, because improvisation, though it can utilize great technique, isn't about technique. It's about creativity. And that's really what you want to keep in mind. And sometimes that's the hardest thing to get through to people, or it's the hardest thing to release in people, is that idea of being creative and thinking about how notes are going to sound against the palette of the chords that are being played. Okay? So we'll listen to some of these ideas, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to play them, and then I want you to try to play them right in between. I'll give you a couple of examples where I'll play my part, and then I'll play what I want you to play, which is going to be exactly what I played. And then I'm going to leave that part out that's supposed to be yours, and I want you to fill it in. Hopefully that'll become clear here in a second. So here comes that background. 3, 4. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to start with the B. Okay, so what I would want you to do then is repeat what I played, like this. Then you, right here. So I want you to follow right on the tail of what I played. Same thing with the E. We'll try it on the E. So I would play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and you. See what I'm saying? I'm going to play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I want you to play the very next 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and using the exact same idea. So even now, before I... Okay, so I'm going to bring that back. Hold on a second. What I'll do is I'll improvise using that that idea that we just got done talking about. I'll give you some examples. So we'll do it about here. 1, a lot of B flats, but you notice the B flat to the G or inverted E minor. Sorry for the delay here. Idea that we just got done talking about. I'll give Okay, there it is. So I'm going to do a little bit more. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and So I want you to play that second 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Let's try that. I'll do the first one, then you do the second one. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's you there. Now me on the E. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now I'm going to do the B flat. And I resolved it up to the B. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 4. So even now, before I give you some examples of... Okay, so I don't know how well that worked. Hopefully it worked reasonably well. And then you always have just that background from the previous video to use, to practice against. But once again, what I was doing there is I was playing the first idea, and I wanted you to follow right on the heels of that. I'd be curious to know if you're able to pull that off. Let me know, because it's kind of a good way to learn some of these ideas is by mimicking them. If it ended up just being a circus, let me know, and I'll try to come up with a way to make it a little bit more clear. But I wanted to try that anyway. And even if you weren't able to come in on the heels of what I was playing, we still talked about those ideas, that idea of using that grace note and that slide to slide into those notes. Plus the idea of resolution. Once again, it's a big part of improvisation, is if you're going to create tension, like we do with the B flat note, is to resolve it. The ear kind of waits patiently for that resolution, okay? So there's a lot on that. There's a lot there, even though there wasn't a lot of variety in the notes. There's still a lot of ideas and concepts there that I hope you will take the time to try and wrap your head around. And once again, feedback is important when we're talking about these things, because if one idea and one approach doesn't work, we can try other ways. So let me know what sort of success you do or don't have with that.